A lot of us, especially a lot of us that are high achievers, often feel like we're always so busy, but no matter how busy we are, we just don't feel productive for whatever reason. Now, there's some very common causes of this, and there's very simple ways to fix this, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. But if you're new here, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Jorge Calaus. I'm a business lawyer based in Florida, specializing in high-stakes lawsuits, and in this channel, we explore the principles and the strategies to help us live more productive, meaningful, and fulfilling lives. Now, the first thing that's very important to understand is that busyness is often a symptom of reactivity. And what I mean by reactivity is not being proactive. And what I mean by reactivity and not being proactive is that you're not taking charge of the day, you're not taking charge of the tasks, you're not acting on the world, you're allowing the world to act on you, and you're living in a state of reacting to the world. And so when we're constantly reacting to the world and reacting to the tasks and reacting to the emails and reacting to the calls, we feel like we're really busy, but we feel like we're not getting done the things that we want to get done. In fact, most of the things that move the needle the most are not putting out fires. And so if we're constantly putting out fires day after day after day after day, then we're not doing there's no space for us to do the things that really move the needle. And if we're not doing the things that really move the needle, then we don't feel like we're being productive. So that's the first concept to understand, is that busyness oftentimes just equals reactivity. The other concept to understand is that busyness oftentimes is a form of escapism. Now, I won't go into it too deeply in this video because there's a lot of reasons why you may want to escape from something or another, but oftentimes when we're trying to escape something, like for example, we're trying to not do the thing that we know would move the needle forward, but it's hard and we're kind of scared because what if I do it and it doesn't work out and it doesn't actually move the needle forward? What does it say about me? There's a bunch of reasons why we can escape from doing the things that would move the needle forward, or why we just would want an escape altogether. But oftentimes busyness and getting really busy and being really, busy, I'm sorry for my lack of vocabulary right now, but oftentimes when we engage in overly busy behavior, that is a form of escapism. And like I said, I can't really go into it too deeply in this video because it would be its entire own video, but there are many reasons why we engage in this sort of escapism. The point is that busyness can oftentimes be a form of escapism. Now, understanding those two very important concepts, I want to expand a little more on the first concept, which was the concept of busyness equaling reactivity. If you haven't read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I highly recommend that you do. It's one of my favorite books. And one of the concepts that is one of my favorite time management concepts of all time is the concept of the 4 quadrants of time management. Now, I know somebody commented on the video that I made about these 4 quadrants, which I'll link to at the end of this video. I know somebody commented that Stephen Covey might have gotten it from Eisenhower and that is actually called the Eisenhower Matrix. I honestly have no idea, but if that's true, then I'll give the credit to Eisenhower. But I learned it from Stephen Covey, so I'm going to explain it the way that Stephen Covey explains it. So the 4 quadrants are Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, and Quadrant 4, of course. Quadrant 1 is for things and tasks that are urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is for things and tasks that are important but not urgent. Quadrant 3 is for tasks that are urgent but not important. And Quadrant 4 is for tasks and things that are neither urgent nor important. So one of the points that he makes in that book is a point that I was making earlier, which is that so many of us live in Quadrant 1. We live in Quadrant 1, constantly doing things that are urgent and important. We are constantly putting out fires, and we don't have any time left over for Quadrant 2 activities, which are the things that are important, but they're not urgent. And moreover, what we often do when we're overwhelmed with the constant putting out of fires in Quadrant 1 is that we seek some sort of solace and escapism in Quadrants 3 and 4, which is not a good time management technique because those things are not important. And so understanding this idea that the best time management is proactive and not reactive can help us create the space that we need to do the things in Quadrant 2 that can move the needle and create the time and the space for us to either delegate or automate or not have to do at all the things that we're currently doing in quadrant 1. But here's the important part. The time for quadrant 2 activities is found in quadrants 3 and 4. And so it's doing those non-important things in quadrants 3 and 4 that's taking up the time that we could be using to do quadrant 2 activities. And so to go from busy to productive, we must find the time, we must create the time for quadrant 2 activities that move the needle forward. Now I have two final concepts that I think will be very useful for you if you suffer from this busy, not productive situation. The first one is to look into the science behind how distracting distractions actually are. And if you want a book recommendation for that, this book, Deep Work by Cal Newport, is an amazing book. And one of the concepts that he talks about in this book is the concept of a residue of attention being left on the thing that you got distracted by. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you're working on project A, and let's say you get an email about project B, even if you only look at that email for 5 to 10 seconds, and then you go back to project A, a residue of your attention is left on that email and on project B for a significant amount of time. It's not that you go to that email and then you come back to project A and then you're fully focused on project A. It takes a while for you to get that residue of attention back. And so if you're constantly context switching back and forth, if you're constantly multitasking, you're constantly leaving residues of attention everywhere, and that leaves you unable to fully and deeply focus into the task at hand. And when you are unable to fully and deeply focus into the task at hand, you may feel like you're very busy, but you're not being really productive. And the last concept I want to share with you is the concept of the 80-20 rule, or the 80-20 principle. This book is also fantastic. And the 80-20 principle, I won't go super in depth into it because I did make a video on this, which I might link to at the end of this video. I already promised you that I would link to something else, a different video at the end of this video. I'll either link to the 4 quadrants or the 80-20 principle. I'll actually put both down in the description box below. But if you want to learn more about the 80-20 principle, click that link in the description box below, how it came about, etc. But one of the things that the 80-20 principle says is that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions, 80% of your results come from 20% of your tasks. And so if you feel like you're constantly busy but you're not productive, you might be doing the 80% of activities that are creating only 20% of the results. And if you were to focus on the 20% of the activities that are generating 80% of the results, you might feel a lot more productive. On that note, since that's what I finished this video with, I will actually link to the video that I made about the 80-20 principle right here, and I'll put the 4 quadrant video down in the description if you want to check that out. And if you want more resources, feel free to click the link in the description box below, where you can go over to my website and download your free copy of the 5-step morning routine, a quick start guide to high performance and peace of mind. And as always, if you enjoy this content, please join the community, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment letting me know what you liked and what you want to see more of. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.